A judge has dismissed altogether the $400 million defamation lawsuit filed by director Justin Baldoni against Hollywood power couple Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. The backstory: Lively had initially filed a civil lawsuit against Baldoni, claiming that while working on the film It Ends With Us, Baldoni sexually harassed her. She claims that when she spoke up, Baldoni's team, in retaliation, orchestrated a smear campaign to ruin her reputation. Baldoni denied all of her claims and later filed this defamation suit, which was just dismissed today. And with me now is the attorney representing Blake Lively, Mike Gottlieb. And Mike, would you just, if people think you look familiar, it's because you were here talking about, you were representing Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, the two Georgia election workers that were suing Rudy Giuliani, just if anybody's wondering, how did this guy's face looks familiar? So how did Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds react to hearing that the defamation suit against her and her husband has just been dismissed?
In a stunning twist in one of the most talked about legal battles in recent entertainment history, the judge has officially ruled in favor of Blake Lively, dismissing the majority of claims brought against her by actor-director Justin Baldoni. This development sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the online fan community, especially as the case involved high-profile names and serious allegations. Let's walk through what happened and what this means for both parties moving forward. As the news broke, Popcorn Planet hosted attorney Christopher Melture to provide a legal breakdown of the situation. According to Melture, the dismissal of the charges wasn't entirely surprising given the legal standards involved, particularly when it comes to defamation law in the United States.
It's a day of vindication, Jake, and thanks for having me, by the way. They're vindicated. They are gratified. They are grateful to the individuals and organizations that have stood by Miss Lively as she's pursued these claims, and they are determined, Miss Lively is determined to see her claims through, which are not dismissed and will go on to a trial that's set for next year. But she is determined to see her claims through and to pursue them to have a full public accountability of what she has alleged happened to her.
And one of the things that's so fascinating and also disturbing about this case is how much the internet it plays a role with people trying to get out information to smear. And there was a very orchestrated campaign to smear Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to a lesser extent. What was that like? What was it like going through that as her attorney?
Now, what exactly was Justin Baldoni claiming? According to the lawsuit, he alleged that a film idea was stolen from him and that Blake Lively and other parties made damaging statements about him that affected his reputation and career. These are serious claims. However, the court found that many of the statements at issue were protected under the First Amendment. In the U.S., speech, especially related to matters of public interest or involving public figures, is heavily protected by law. In this case, the judge determined that even if everything Baldoni alleged were true, it wouldn't be enough to hold Lively and others legally accountable for defamation. Why? Because legal protections exist to ensure people can speak freely, particularly when exposing misconduct, without fear of ruinous lawsuits, unless it's proven that the speaker knew the claims were false and acted maliciously. That's the bar Justin Baldoni couldn't clear. According to Melture, this is the heart of what's often referred to as anti-SLAPP law, designed to quickly dismiss lawsuits meant to silence or punish free speech. It's a key part of why this case didn't go forward. What's more, the judge didn't just dismiss the defamation aspect. The entire foundation of Baldoni's case was severely undermined. While two minor claims were left open for possible refiling, one involving a timing dispute with the New York Times and another about interference with contractual relationships, the core accusations against Blake Lively were essentially declared dead in court.
Yeah, the complaint that Miss Lively filed alleges that a retaliatory campaign was launched against her back around the time that the movie was released in August of 2024. That campaign was sort of written out in a planning document of exactly the kinds of activities and stories that would be planted about Miss Lively, to accuse her of weaponizing feminism, to accuse her of exploiting people, all designed to discredit her, to silence her. It was a campaign that really took a toll on Miss Lively and a number of other individuals that were really roped into this and harmed by this campaign.
Well, let's talk about that, because the toll I want to talk about is taken on Blake and her family. It created headlines when Baldoni's now dismissed lawsuit brought up Blake Lively's friend Taylor Swift. Swift was subpoenaed when text exchanges between Baldoni and Lively were revealed to include the name Taylor. Swift's representative says she was not involved in the movie in any way beyond licensing one song for the film. And at the time, you slammed Baldoni's team for bringing Taylor Swift into this. How did that impact your client?
But the story doesn't end there. In a further blow to Baldoni, he may now be liable for the opposing party's legal fees, a potentially massive financial setback, given how long and complex this litigation has already been. That's right, not only did he lose the case, but he might have to pay for it. Literally. So where does this leave Blake Lively? Legally speaking, she's in the clear for now. The dismissal of the claims is a significant victory, one that her legal team will undoubtedly use to frame her as fully vindicated. And while she's yet to comment publicly, the media narrative is already beginning to favor her side. That said, the situation is far from simple. Melture pointed out that this dismissal doesn't necessarily mean Justin Baldoni was lying or that Blake Lively was truthful. The case was dismissed based on legal technicalities and protections, not a jury verdict weighing evidence. In other words, we may never get a court ruling on who was right or wrong. Only that Baldoni's claims didn't meet the standard required to proceed. This legal showdown has also caused considerable damage on both sides. Blake Lively previously faced criticism for refusing to release mental health records that were central to her emotional distress claims, which led to her dropping a portion of her lawsuit. This, according to Melture, weakened her credibility and claim of emotional harm. So yes, both parties have taken hits. And this raises a bigger question. What happens next? Will Blake Lively now quietly walk away from the case, satisfied with the dismissal, or will there be a countersuit? Will Baldoni appeal the decision, launching a long, uphill legal battle that could drag on for years? Attorney Melture believes. An appeal is likely, but warns it would be slow, costly, and uncertain. He suggests that both sides might be better off settling and moving on. But in Hollywood, especially when reputations are at stake, egos and public image can outweigh logic. Some conspiracy theories are even emerging online, with fans speculating that the Judge Lyman, has industry connections that could influence the ruling. Melture dismissed such claims, stating the decision was legally sound and predictable under existing law. He emphasized that the anti-SLAPP laws exist for a reason, to prevent lawsuits from silencing people who speak out. In the end, this case is a prime example of how complex celebrity legal battles can be. They're rarely black and white. Legal standards are high, especially for defamation, and it's not enough to say you were harmed. You have to prove actual malice, a nearly impossible threshold in many cases. Now, let's take a moment to talk about the wider implications of this ruling. Defamation lawsuits involving celebrities have been increasingly common in the post-Me Too era. From Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard to Meghan Markle's battles with tabloids, we've seen how these public disputes play out both in the courtroom and in the court of public opinion. In this case, the judge's ruling is especially significant because it reinforces the legal shield that protects individuals, especially victims or whistleblowers, from being sued for speaking out. Critics of Baldoni's lawsuit argue that his actions could have had a chilling effect on people who come forward with allegations, fearing that they'll be buried under legal fees or dragged into court. That's exactly what anti-SLAPP laws are designed to prevent. On the flip side, supporters of Baldoni feel this case highlights how difficult it is to restore a damaged reputation, even when you believe you've been wrongly accused. Once certain allegations are made public, the damage is often irreversible, even if those claims are later disproven or dismissed. The media, of course, has been all over this story. News outlets have already begun framing this as a total win for Blake Lively. Social media is buzzing with hashtags taking sides. Lure Justice. For Justin and I Believe Blake are both trending in different corners of the internet. But with so many opinions flying around, it's easy to lose sight of what actually happened in the courtroom. Legally speaking, the dismissal of the claims doesn't mean the judge decided who was telling the truth. Instead, it means the case didn't meet the necessary legal criteria to proceed to trial. It's a critical distinction, one that often gets lost in the headlines. Courtroom outcomes are based on law, not morality or public opinion. There's also the financial toll to consider. With attorney fees potentially running into the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, both parties may be forced to rethink their next moves carefully. Do they want to keep fighting a war that may never yield a clear victory, or is it smarter to negotiate a quiet exit? And what about future careers? Blake Lively is a high-profile actress with a carefully curated public image. This ruling helps her maintain that image, at least legally. Justin Baldoni, known for his work on Jane the Virgin and as a filmmaker, focused on emotional vulnerability and justice, may find it harder to rebuild trust and credibility in the industry. The coming days and weeks will be critical. Publicists will craft statements. Legal teams will prepare for possible appeals. The media will continue to frame the narrative. And the public, fans like you, will continue to debate what it all means. If this case does go to appeal, expect a long and drawn-out process. Appeals courts don't review facts. They review whether the law was applied correctly. That means Baldoni's legal team would have to argue that the judge made a mistake in interpreting the law, not just that they disagree with the outcome. It's a tough road. In summary, Blake Lively walks away from this round of legal battle with a major victory. Justin Baldoni's claims have been largely dismantled, and while the door isn't entirely closed, the path forward is narrow and uncertain. This story underscores the power of legal strategy, the importance of jurisdiction, and the complexities of free speech in the modern era. Whether you side with Blake, Justin, or are just trying to make sense of it all, one thing is clear. In Hollywood, the real drama doesn't just happen on screen, it happens in courtrooms too. So keep watching this space. This might not be the final chapter, but for now, Blake Lively has scored a significant legal win, and that's making headlines around the world.